Hi guys, it's Alex from knifepointgear.com, and today I want to go over our newest product, the world's lightest, most powerful backpacking saw. So let me bring you in here. I'll go over how the saw works as well as give you the specifications, because I know all of you backpackers love nothing more than specifications. Okay, so the saw that you're seeing here today is actually the prototype version. The final version of this saw will have a slightly longer handle, but other than that, it's identical. Now, I wanted to show you the prototype version specifically because this saw has seen a ton of use. This saw has literally cut cords worth of wood and done thousands and thousands of cuts with this same exact blade. The nice part about this saw, accepting reciprocating Sawzall blades, is the fact that you can get blades that have carbide teeth. The nice thing about carbide teeth is that they practically last forever if all you're cutting is wood, which is what most people are going to be doing with this saw. The other nice thing about having a blade with carbide teeth is that it doesn't care if you're going through hardwood or softwood. It will cut just as aggressively in hardwood as it does in softwood, which is kind of a problem if we're talking about other backpacking saws that are designed to cut live softwoods rather than dead hardwoods. This saw has absolutely no problem going through any dead hardwood whatsoever. The blade itself is actually what makes this saw one of the fastest backpacking saws that you can buy. There is, at this point in time, there is no faster or lighter backpacking saw currently for sale on the market today. Okay, so let me show you real quick how this thing works. Then we'll touch on a couple of different blade options as well as weights and other specifications. This works very similar to a buck saw in that it uses a cord to tension the blade. So in order to take it apart, it's as simple as undoing the tensioning stick thing here, pull it through the cord, and then the blade and tensioning cord simply comes out of the handle and it's fully disassembled. And putting it back together is just as simple as taking it apart. You insert the tensioning cord through the stainless steel blade insert. The other end has an aluminum insert, and the aluminum insert is actually slightly smaller in diameter so that the blade will not fit in that end. So you can only insert the blade into the slot that it's supposed to fit into. Then we go ahead and insert the blade, pull the tensioning cord through, insert our little tensioning stick here. This is just a stick that you find off of the ground. We'll talk about that in a second. And then you tension the blade. And the saw is back together and fully functional. So now we'll go ahead and take this back apart and we'll look at some of the individual components. We'll start with the stick back here, which is as simple as a stick. Me personally, I do not carry a dedicated tensioning stick. I just find one off the ground. What you're looking for in a tensioning stick is something that's about the same size as your finger and that you can't easily break with one hand and your thumb. That's the test that I use. If you can hold the stick in your hand and take your thumb and just break it in half, then it's not strong enough find a new one. I've never had problems finding a good stick after 30 seconds to a minute worth of searching, sometimes even quicker. If you're worried about finding one, just pick one off the ground as you're walking along during the day and carry it with you. Also, if you're worried about finding a decent stick, you can actually use a tent peg, an aluminum tent peg or two, and do the same process with some tent pegs. So now we'll take the blade apart and we'll talk about the tensioning cord. This is a piece of Zingit, that's what it's called. It's made from Dyneema fiber, which is, I think it's something like the 4th strongest material known to man. The strand, individual strand, has a 650-pound breaking strength, and in all my testing, I have never broken one of these. We're talking about thousands of cuts, literally thousands and thousands of cuts. However, I do consider this a wear item because it will start to show some wear after you take it down and put it back together hundreds of times with the stick going through the loop here, and simply the friction from tensioning it on the aluminum insert back here. You will start to see a little bit of wear. The nice thing though is that this is very easily replaced, and in some cases it can even be field repairable. I happen to use Zingit as my bear line, so if I were to break this in the field, I simply take a small piece of my bear line and tie a new loop, and I've got a new cord for my saw. Just a word of advice, you can technically use paracord and other types of cord for this tensioning line, but it's not recommended. Dyneema line has essentially zero stretch to it, and it's extremely strong for its size and weight. The big thing being is that it has 0 to no stretch, which is super important when we're talking about a tensioning device for a saw. Yes, you can use paracord in a pinch. It's not going to be the best option. You're gonna have trouble with it. And I would definitely recommend, if you are, for whatever reason, worried about breaking this, and I'm not, again, I've used a single line for all my testing. We're talking thousands and thousands of cuts, and I've never had a problem with this breaking. But if you are worried about it, you can just take a new piece at the cost of less than a gram, or you can switch up your bear line and use Dyneema Zingit bear line, and you have a replacement in the field if you're at all concerned about it. The next wear item we have is obviously the blade. The blade is one of the most important parts of this saw. I chose these blades in particular because they are the fastest, most aggressive cutting blades that you can buy. This blade has carbide teeth, and in my opinion, again, that's what makes this saw an absolute beast when it comes to cutting. We are going to, at this moment in time, offer several different blade choices. You have the 12-inch blade choice, you're going to have a 9-inch blade choice, and then you'll have a 9-inch pruning saw blade choice. So first off, we have the 9-inch pruning saw blade. I would only recommend this blade if you are looking for the absolute lightest option possible, or you plan on cutting a lot of very small diameter pieces of wood. And by small diameter, I mean around 1.5 inches to 1 inch and under. I would also recommend this blade if you plan on using the saw a lot single-handedly. This is a much less aggressive cutting blade than the carbide tip blades, and it's much easier to use single-handedly. Me personally, I do not use this blade simply because it doesn't have the same cutting performance as the carbide tip blades do, and it also doesn't offer very good hardwood cutting performance. It will cut through hardwood, no problem. It just takes a lot longer, and it's very on par with a lot of the more popular mainstream options out there. Next blade we have is the 9-inch carbide tip blade. This is the minimum that I would technically recommend. I like the carbide tip blades because they cut through hardwoods just as easily as they cut through softwoods. They are a very aggressive blade though. You will need a little bit more strength to use these over the pruning saw blade, and they are not as good for single-handed users simply because they are extremely aggressive cutters. You can use these single-handedly. I do it all the time, but just keep in mind that it's going to take a little bit more strength and maybe a little bit more technique in order to use these, simply due to the fact that they're so aggressive. We sell the 9-inch version simply because it's approximately the same length as our saw. And then we have the 12-inch version, which is the one that I personally carry, the one that I would personally recommend. You just get so much more cutting performance out of this over the other two blades due to the extra length, and again due to the fact that it has carbide teeth. And to give you an idea, this is the blade that I've done literally thousands of cuts on, and it's still going strong due to the carbide teeth. These teeth basically don't dull unless you come in contact with like gravel or rocks or something like that. Again, this is a very aggressive cutter, and it's going to take a little bit more strength to use than, say, the pruning saw blades that you might be used to. But once you get the technique down, you will definitely be happy with its cutting performance. So now let's go over the saw itself. The saw itself uses a 304 stainless steel blade insert. We have a real carbon fiber handle, and then on the end here we have an aluminum insert that you use to tension the blade. That's where the stick or tensioning piece rides, so it doesn't ride on the carbon fiber. The aluminum end cap is slightly smaller in diameter, so your blade will not fit into the wrong end. And this thing is extremely strong. You can stand on it, you're not going to break it. It's a roll wrap pattern, and that means that you actually have a decent amount of grip on this thing due to the way that the rolls overlap each other down the length of the handle. It's not a slippery handle. However, if you do find that you need more grip, you can certainly take some grip tape and wrap it around the handle portion, and that will provide you a lot more grip if that's something that you're worried about. That does add a little bit of weight. We're talking a couple of grams here depending on how much you use, but it does provide a lot more grip. Me personally, I'm not carrying mine with grip tape. I want the lightest, most powerful option I can have, which is this combination right here. You have to keep in mind that this saw isn't designed to cut cords of wood, even though you can cut cords of wood with it. That's not its intent. This is designed to be carried the vast majority of the time, but when you do need a saw, it will certainly get the job done. There's no lighter backpacking saw in the entire world that's capable of doing that. And just to give you some ideas of what is possible with this saw, we'll go ahead and make a wooden wedge. Not that you're going to have access to a vise out in the woods, but where there's a will, there's certainly a way. And I think this will also go to show you just how easily this saw will cut through hardwood, no matter if you're doing a cross cut or a rip cut. And maybe in the future we'll do a video showing you how to make wooden wedges with this saw without a vise out in the wild. So when you order one of these things, it's going to come shipped to you in a heavy-duty plastic bag with a plastic blade guard attached. Now you can certainly use the plastic bag to carry it in. It's sort of heavy. This is just a heavy-duty plastic bag to protect it during shipping. And then we have a plastic blade guard that simply slides over the blade like so. If I can get it back on. There we go. Now what I typically do is just carry it with the plastic blade guard, say that 10 times fast, and then I wrap the cord around it like this. And then just stick it in the outside pocket of my backpack. Now if you are worried about the blade poking through the mesh outside pocket of your backpack, for instance, you can also go ahead and put this into a heavy-duty stake sack and it'll be better protected. The saw itself is no pointier than aluminum or titanium tent pegs and would work well in that carry option. So that is, as of now, the world's lightest, most capable backpacking survival saw, if that's what you want to use it for. So I think you can certainly see that this thing has capabilities. We will be doing some more videos in the future explaining how to change the blade and things like that, so stay tuned for those. If you have any questions, ask me in the comments below. If you want to know the up-to-date specs on this thing, please check the website where everything will be listed. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.